It's like Christmas, like the whole week.
all over again. Like we're just there.
Every year. So Chris, Brad was in here, and he kind of mentioned about how like RFK was looking really good by the end of the year. Can you kind of tell me how you carried that momentum over to the off season?
Yeah, it's a we ended on a definitely positive notes last year, and felt like we were finding some baselines that were working for us at a lot of different styles of racetracks, and I think that we come into this year knowing that we weren't as good as we needed to be at any of the West Coast swing last year. Some of the early races, I don't know that. Think forward to like Bristol Dirt. I don't know that we have a hold on that one necessarily, but definitely feel like a lot of these different styles of racetracks, we're in a whole lot better place going back this year and are able to work off some of that momentum that we ended with and hopefully built on it even more. So, yeah, I definitely feel like we're in a much better place. We've gotten a lot of chemistry built throughout the shop between all the new employees that came in from different organizations, with Brad coming over into that ownership role and seeing the progress and the excitement and the mindset of everybody by the end of the year, being able to sit on pole at a couple races and win the Bristol race, seeing Jack pumped up and excited again. It's been really, really neat to see and gives us a lot of confidence heading into this weekend.
Obviously, unfortunately, neither car made the Clash a couple weeks ago. Same as last year. How much should we take from that?
Not much. It's I really hope those are just rumors of that being a points race next year, but it's you can go pay $2 to get on bumper cars for the same price, but for the same experience, I should say. But jokes aside, that was a little bit of a swing and a miss for us, and we are working on it and trying to understand it because it's the only track that's exactly like that, but we think to maybe like a Loudon flat track that was not our strongest race. Probably need to have a little bit more understanding of it, but definitely got more ideas coming out of it. It's just you get those 3 sessions of practice, but even that being the case, you only have about 6 minutes to work on it in between, and you really can't change much. So you go all the way across the country, and what you took there is ultimately what you have to race with a couple little tweaks here and there. So it's hard to get that right off the truck, and we obviously haven't done it, but we'll be just fine going forward at a lot of these other racetracks.
Chris, RFK Racing swept the duels last year. Brad won the first, you won the second. And what we saw in the duels was a lot of really spread out racing, cars only in like groups of 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7. Since we now have a year of super speedway knowledge or super speedway races in the next gen car, do you expect the racing product to be a bit different in the duels than what we saw last year, or do you think it's going to be the same just because of the size of the field?
No, the shortest way to put the answer is parts. We have parts now. So, last year, most of the teams down here had one backup to share across 2, 3, 4 teams. So we couldn't race, essentially. I mean, that was the scenario we had at RFK was if Brad went out in duel number 1 and got caught up in a wreck, that the 17 car was not going to be able to race duel 2. We were going to have to go right around and make sure we had a car at the end. Most of the field was in that scenario, and it changed the way that race played out. You don't have that this year. And on top of that, to your point, there's a whole lot more knowledge of how this car races, a whole lot more track time, worked out most of the bugs of the car itself that give us more confidence in what we're feeling, and it's not we're not getting caught off guard in certain scenarios. So I would say don't even compare to last year's duels. I don't think you'll have anything remotely close to that. I could be wrong, but at this time I don't think you're going to see anything close to the duels from last year.
As a driver with some experience on super speedways in the next gen car, does it make you nervous at all when there's some open guys that have literally never taken a lap in this car and what might happen during the duels?
Not necessarily nervous, but yeah, I mean, you do think about it. I think the car is completely different from anything that most of us have ever driven. It's completely different than the previous generation of car that, by principle, we've really been running for probably over 30 years. I really got to think about that, but it's been the same parts and pieces under those cars for how long. yeah, the car's very different. It does behave different in aero situations. So, hopefully those guys, and they got to race in. We're all racing to get to the big show, so I'm not going to hold anything against them if they're out there trying to get it done. But I do hope that they take that little bit of caution to win and learn what they can get away with a little bit early, so that they can race hard and help us all put on a great show and a good race for everybody.
How much did you work with Travis 10 years ago when he was with Roush?
A decent amount. We were teammates there. It was.
Did you run a partial schedule that year?
I think that was my partial season. I've told a lot of people, though, the most incredible saves I ever seen in a stock car were done by Travis Pastrana. I can't tell you how many times I'd be staring at what I swear was the left front fender decals of his car from behind him, and all of a sudden he'd straighten it out and take off. The whole field, the whole field behind him would be off the gas, backfiring on the brakes, because we just knew he was wrecked. He was spun out, and he'd straighten it back out and keep digging. We're all sitting there looking at each other like, crap, we got to go. It blew my mind what he got away with in that race car, and it was awesome to see. Probably not as awesome for him inside the car at some of those points, but it was awesome. It was a blast to have around. Really good dude, and excited to have him back on the racetrack with us this weekend. Kind of coming back to it. Yeah, it's a very different car from that, and it's going to be a learning curve, but it's going to be cool to see him back around here before too long.
It's fascinating because like you and then some other drivers have talked about his skill set, but then every time I've talked to him, he said that there's no one more talented than NASCAR drivers. And like that's why he said he's bad, is because he just wasn't as good as you guys.
I think he's incredibly humble for all the accomplishments that he has and all the different racing series, 2, 3, 4 wheels, whatever it may be. So I don't know. I will agree that NASCAR is hard. It's very difficult to figure this out, but it's also something that I think is kind of specific to asphalt racing and NASCAR in general is when you're out of control, that edge is very, very small. I've not done enough dirt racing to speak real intelligently on it, but the little bit I've done, my opinion is that when something gets out of shape or gets a little over the edge, you have a little bit more recovery. And like I said, that's not from a whole lot of experience, but just some of what I've experienced my handful of races I've done. I've had a blast doing it and love it, but it's on edge at any given point in a Cup car or any NASCAR series on asphalt at the speeds we're going. It's very much a switch of you're good or you're not.
As a team that was obviously strong last year, won both of the duels here at Daytona, how much of a difference does no practice make heading into qualifying in the duels?
It won't make any difference heading into qualifying. Essentially that's just setting your field for the duels so that we can get out there and figure out what we got underneath us. And even before the duels, I feel like I would like to have some practice to get a shakedown of our race cars before we head in, but at the same time, no matter how much practice we get, we never organize a group large enough to truly get a feel what our car is going to do in an aggressive drafting situation, like you would in the duels. So now that we're, like we talked, it's not a parts shortage that we're worried about. We have backup cars that we don't want to use, but we could. I think this gives us the best opportunity to go out into a dual race, run it hard, and see what we got, and not have the 85-90% that you would in practice. We can truly get a read on it, and if need to make an adjustment, we can change it for practice. But I don't think that in those practices you'll see massive drafting groups to really feel like you made the right decision or not. You'll just have to make that change and trust it's the correct one.
So are you team?
This is Timmy Hill, driver of the 56 Toyota. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also check out one of those videos beside me and visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.